I've just bought this GT3 RS because Porsche have refused to fix it. But we're not going to be getting our warranty back today, for now, just yet.
An almost new track-bred Porsche 911 GT3 RS was repossessed by the bank and sold for less than its original worth. Even worse, the engine was completely destroyed, and Porsche legally banned it from their dealerships forever. But why would a manufacturer abandon their own flagship vehicle? Today, we go inside Mat Armstrong's most dangerous teardown to expose the truth that sparked a multi-million-dollar corporate showdown. The six-figure gamble. Everyone knows Porsches are high-end luxury cars. You're far more likely to see one in the garage of a millionaire than at a public auction. Yet somehow, a speed yellow Porsche 911 GT3 RS turned up at an auction. Typically, these bad boys are sold for over $200,000 on the market. Yet, automotive YouTuber Mat Armstrong was able to get it for £87,000, which is roughly around $116,000. Cars like this rarely lose much of their value, even after a long time, so it either sounded like the deal of the century or a total trap. Well, since everyone knows Mat buys defective, supposedly unfixable elite supercars in an attempt to bring them back to life, all eyes were on him to see how well he could transform this particular car. Once the paperwork cleared and Mat officially took possession of the car, he had it transported back to his workshop to see what he had actually purchased. When the Porsche arrived at the shop, the initial walkthrough left the team completely baffled. The car looked almost brand new. The expensive paint protection film was completely intact, and the bodywork showed zero signs of track abuse or accident damage. It didn't take long for Mat to discover why the car was as good as useless the moment he hopped into the driver's seat. Despite looking brand new, the vehicle was functionally dead. Turning the key produced absolutely nothing, as the engine would not come on. Even the dashboard stayed dark, with no sign of life. The mystery deepened when Mat started tracking down the vehicle's paperwork. The records revealed a shocking twist, as the official Porsche dealer network had completely blacklisted this specific vehicle. They flagged the car in their global database and banned it from receiving factory service. This discovery raised a huge red flag, because cars like these are protected by tons of legal manufacturer warranties, especially because Porsche usually prides itself on corporate customer service and precision engineering. Why would a massive automotive giant completely void a legal warranty on their own Halo car? Rather than pay the repair bill, the original owner abandoned the car altogether instead of dealing with the corporate fallout, leaving the bank to repossess it. Mat was now holding the keys to a six-figure paperweight that a multi-billion-dollar brand refused to touch. To understand why Porsche walked away from their own engineering masterpiece, we have to look past the beautiful paintwork and dig directly into the dark history of the Porsche 911.1 engine legacy. The notorious 911.1 curse. The 911.1 generation Porsche GT3 RS is undeniably one of the most celebrated naturally aspirated flat-six engines in history. But somehow, it is also one of the most legally flawed vehicles ever made. At the absolute center of this vehicle is a specialized 4.0-liter power plant. This engine was engineered for track performance, built to rev all the way to 9,000 revolutions per minute. For automotive purists, it was the absolute pinnacle of performance engineering. Behind all that legendary track reputation was a hidden metallurgical nightmare that turned these elite sports cars into ticking time bombs. The problem backtracks to a notorious design defect inside the valvetrain of the engine. Porsche utilized small components called finger followers, which function as rocker arms to help control the opening and closing of the valves. In this specific generation of cars, those finger followers and the spinning camshafts began grinding directly against each other. So instead of moving smoothly, the heavy friction caused the metal components to break down, shedding tiny, sharp metal flakes right into the engine oil. As these metal shavings circulated through the moving parts, they carved up the inside of the engine block. Drivers who got the exact Porsche models across the world started experiencing severe engine misfires, which led to sudden drops in power and then a total mechanical failure. This mechanical flaw created a massive corporate vulnerability for Porsche. The growing public backlash from furious supercar owners threatened to destroy the stellar reputation of the brand. To protect their image while satisfying customers, Porsche Corporate made an unprecedented move by issuing a 10-year factory warranty extension specifically to cover this particular engine defect.
If any of the 911.1 models suffered from this valvetrain issue, the local dealership
Would swap the broken motor for a brand new factory unit for $0. With a 10-year factory-backed warranty, this speed yellow GT3 RS should have received a brand new free engine. Yet, Porsche explicitly denied it. But why? In order to answer this, we have to look at the history of the car before Mat Armstrong ever got his hands on it. This yellow Porsche 911 GT3 RS was said to have originally belonged to an anonymous wealthy guy who purchased this vehicle to live out an elite racing lifestyle. However, that high-speed dream quickly turned into an absolute administrative and financial nightmare. It all started to go sideways when the owner noticed an unusual, rhythmic ticking noise coming from behind the driver's seat. Within a few miles, that faint ticking grew into a loud mechanical clatter, followed by a sudden, scary drop in engine power. Recognizing the classic warning signs of the notorious valvetrain defect, the owner did exactly what any sensible driver would do. He took the vehicle directly to an official Porsche center, fully expecting a free factory engine replacement under the extended warranty policy. The dealership team rolled the yellow supercar into the service bay and handed it over to their factory-trained technicians. They hooked up their specialized corporate diagnostic computers to scan the electronic control units. Instead of approving a routine engine swap, the digital scanners flagged a severe data discrepancy hidden deep inside the software logs. Corporate headquarters stepped in immediately, voided the entire factory warranty, and blacklisted the car from the global network. The service department handed the owner a brutal retail repair bill totaling close to $60,000. Furious at the corporate denial, the owner refused to pay the bill, walked out, and abandoned the vehicle at the shop. The financial fallout trickled down fast, and the owner stopped making the monthly payments on the vehicle finance agreement, forcing the bank to step in and order a repossession. Left in a state of limbo, the car sat partially stripped and forgotten until Mat Armstrong's winning auction bid dragged it back into the spotlight. Unraveling a nightmare. Winning the auction turned out to be the easiest part of this entire high-stakes journey. The moment the flatbed delivery truck arrived at the workshop, the initial excitement completely vanished. Taking delivery of the vehicle revealed the Porsche was a flagship supercar that had been completely sabotaged by months of pure neglect. Mat and his crew gathered around the trailer to unload the machine, immediately grabbing their cameras to document a baffling state of disassembly. As they began inspecting the mechanical components, the discoveries went from weird to genuinely alarming. Crawling underneath the low chassis, the team made a shocking discovery. The oil sump plug was completely loose and untorqued, spinning freely at the touch of a finger. When they checked the main fluid reservoirs, they found the 4-liter engine completely drained of oil and completely out of engine coolant. Without the coolant, the engine is exposed to the elements which can cause permanent internal rust and a lot of other terrible things. The confusion worsened when Mat opened the driver door to inspect the cabin. Resting quietly on the clean fabric of the passenger seat was a critical fuel pump fuse that seemed totally out of place. It was right there that the team finally connected the dots and realized why exactly the faults this car had. The technicians at the official dealership had initially started tearing down the vehicle to investigate the warranty claim. The moment corporate headquarters issued the sudden halt order and voided the policy, the mechanics stopped working on it. Since they were no longer getting paid by the factory, they threw the loose parts back together and tossed random components into the interior and pushed the car out into the elements. To find out if the engine block was completely destroyed, Mat had no choice but to execute a full surgical engine-out teardown. Dropping a Porsche flat 6 engine is a highly specialized, multi-day task that shows every inch of what the supercar has been through. Mat and his team spent long hours beneath the vehicle, carefully disconnecting the intricate rear subframe. They had to label dozens of electronic connectors, fragile high-pressure cooling lines, and heavy suspension brackets before they could safely lower the massive 4-liter power plant onto a hydraulic lift. The workshop resembled a high-stakes operating room more than a standard garage, as the mechanical heart of the vehicle was slowly wheeled away from the chassis. With the engine finally resting on a heavy-duty workbench, the real investigative work began. The team started by unbolting the valve covers to expose the highly complex overhead camshaft system. Now, because the vehicle had been sitting outside for months, with its plug loose and its fluids completely gone, Mat expected to find catastrophic internal block damage. Instead, the team was absolutely stunned to discover that the pistons and cylinder walls remained intact. The cylinders still retained their smooth factory finish, meaning that the motor had not broken down from heat or friction before the previous owner decided to auction it. The real disaster was hiding further inside during the deep dive inspection into the valvetrain. As they examined the moving components, they found heavily worn camshaft lobes that had lost their precise rounded profiles from constant grinding. Even worse, several of the crucial finger followers were missing entirely from their designated positions, having slipped completely out of place and dropped into the dark recesses of the mechanical assembly. This physical wear perfectly matched with the exact symptoms of the notorious 911.1 metallurgical design defect. The mechanical fault was exactly what Porsche's extended warranty was designed to cover. This made Porsche's corporate refusal seem incredibly corporate and cruel, until Mat stumbled upon a massive digital discrepancy. The mileage blocker. Current and modern supercars are basically high-powered computers on wheels, with a lot of operational data inside multiple electronic control units. When these independent onboard systems don't align with each other, it triggers a massive red flag at corporate headquarters. In this case, the diagnostic logs revealed the hidden history of a mileage blocker, which is an illegal digital device spliced directly into the odometer wiring harness behind the dashboard. Once turned on, it completely halts mileage accumulation, keeping the odometer frozen even as the vehicle continues to drive. Shady owners use these illegal devices to preserve the extreme resale value of high-end track cars. Every extra mile printed on the dashboard can drop the value of an exotic supercar by thousands of dollars. By using a blocker, an owner can drive for months while the instrument cluster shows a low number. The trick might fool an unsuspecting buyer, but it doesn't stand a chance against Porsche's official POS diagnostic software. If it is tested and the diagnosis shows that the engine has been running for hundreds of hours, but the car has automotive logs claims otherwise, the system instantly flags the vehicle. Mat discovered the truth when he paired the digital records with the physical evidence on the workbench. The heavy, advanced wear on the camshaft lobes and the broken finger followers showed the vehicle had been driven significantly farther than the odometer claimed. This alone was why the vehicle breached Porsche's warranty policies. The car brand wasn't just dodging a design flaw, they were protecting themselves from outright fraud. Mat was not looking for a corporate handout. He was looking for a solution. Instead of throwing away the tampered engine or paying a fortune for a replacement, Mat embarked on a rogue restoration project that completely defied official dealership protocol. Even with official Porsche guidelines stating that once an engine suffers this level of internal contamination, it should be scrapped entirely. Mat chose to ignore the corporate playbook and fix the unfixable machine himself. The rebuild process required a lot of high-end part sourcing and intense manual labor. He started by tracking down specialized aftermarket car parts alongside updated Porsche factory parts. The first major problem was the tedious process of cleaning out potential metal particulate matter from the extensive oil scavenge pumps. Because the failing metal components had shed tiny debris throughout the entire block, the team had to clean every single oil passage by hand. Leaving even a single speck of metal dust inside the system would mean instant destruction for the new components. Once the cleaning was finished, the real assembly began. The crew installed completely new performance camshafts and upgraded finger followers designed to permanently eliminate the original design flaw. These revised components featured a tough coating engineered to handle the intense friction of a high-revving track car. The next ultimate test of patience involved re-shimming the valvetrain and resetting the complex engine timing. Typically, dealerships use specialized, ultra-expensive corporate tools for this exact job. Yet Mat and his team had to rely on standard garage equipment and precise calculations to get the tolerances perfect. As the deadline got closer and closer, the garage turned into a high-stress workspace during a dramatic 24-hour crunch period. The team worked straight through the night to assemble the final exterior pieces, connect the intricate wiring harnesses, and prime the fresh fluid systems. Nobody left the shop as they prepared the supercar for its first startup in several years. Every bolt was double-checked under the pressure of the ticking clock. With the engine buttoned up and reinstalled into the yellow chassis, it was time for the moment of absolute reckoning. Will it roar to life or spin itself into absolute oblivion? The verdict of the first start. The terrifying initial crank of a freshly rebuilt 9,000 RPM race engine brings an overwhelming amount of pressure. Mat climbed inside the driver's seat and reached for the ignition key while the crew stood back, watching closely. The tensions were really high, and it could mean all the work they had put into this vehicle was successful or a failure. For the first time in years, the starter motor finally turned on. Instead of sputtering, the 4-liter power plant fired up instantly. Mat looked down at the instrument cluster, fully expecting a chaotic mess of error codes, only to discover absolutely zero warning lights on the dashboard. The screens remained completely clear, which confirmed the computer systems accepted the rebuilt motor. The crew moved quickly to verify the vital stats before letting the car run too long. They checked the gauges and confirmed solid oil pressure readings, meaning the fresh lubricants reached the new camshafts properly. They also monitored the heat levels, verifying seamless coolant circulation across the massive front radiators. The mechanical rebuild looked perfectly sound while stationary, meaning it was time for a real movement test. Mat lowered the yellow supercar off the lift and headed out for an initial low-speed shakedown drive around the industrial estate. He carefully accelerated down the asphalt, checking the gear engagement on the dual-clutch PDK transmission. Every part they had reassembled was in perfect condition. Stepping out of the vehicle back at the shop brought a massive wave of emotional relief to the entire crew. But there was still one problem. To expose the truth and validate this build, Mat had to take the car to the ultimate testing ground. A Porsche GT3 RS hasn't been fixed until it survives the brutal, unrelenting tarmac of the Green Hell. The team packed up the workshop and shipped the speed yellow GT3 RS straight to Germany's legendary Nurburgring Nordschleife circuit. Out on the open-track straights, Mat pushed the rebuilt 4-liter engine all the way to its iconic digital 9,000 RPM redline. The flat-six engine screamed down the pavement without hesitation. He threw the Porsche into tight bends, evaluating the high-speed cornering confidence with every single turn. Back in the pit lane, the crew monitored the live telemetry data to check for hidden thermal spikes, timing delays, or any sign of the returning valvetrain tick. The car performed flawlessly lap after lap. Mat Armstrong successfully saved a supercar from the scrap heap, yet this huge win left the entire automotive community facing a massive, lingering question about corporate ethics. Did Mat expose Porsche as a greedy corporate giant dodging a flaw? Or did he expose a sketchy underworld of supercar ownership? Legally, Porsche was completely in the right to deny the original warranty due to clear, verified, odometer manipulation. No company can honor a policy when the mileage data is intentionally corrupted. On the other side of the coin, the situation exposes how major manufacturers can use technicalities to escape replacing engines they know possess deep design defects right from the factory. This situation leaves buyers with a massive financial lesson about the exotic car market. A single hidden gap in a vehicle's paper trail can instantly erase $60,000 of asset value overnight. Mat bypassed the corporate system by fixing the car himself. Would you ever buy a supercar blacklisted by the factory? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.